texting versus this thing that we all used to do. It's called talking. I am Devi Jade, and I'm here with the beautiful Dr. Jane Mims.
Hey everybody. Have you ever been out to like a restaurant or just anywhere and you've seen people who are together, but they're not doing anything other than like looking at their phones, and you're like, look at the people in front of you.
Yeah, we talk a lot about this, and it seems, when I was traveling in Europe, when we used to do that, remember those days? It was not too long ago. And we went to Ireland, and honestly, you didn't see people on their phones. You didn't see them walking down the roads, texting. You didn't see them in, even if we were traveling, texting. But you could pick out an American every time because that's what they were doing, texting. So, Dr. Jane, I want to ask you, how do you handle that? What are 3 really good ways that you apply in your life, or you would suggest to somebody just out and about? Let's say I'm going to go this way. 3 things you would tell an adult, 3 things you would tell a teenager, and 3 things you would tell maybe a little bit of a younger person, because they're on there all the time too.
Yeah,
so,
they are.
So 3 things for the adult. What would you do?
A long video. Yeah. Okay. So it's funny. My husband and I were having a discussion one night. We were just the 2 of us. We were at having dinner in a Mexican restaurant. This was a few months ago. And we were sitting just at the bar because there were 2 seats available. We didn't have to wait for a table if we just sat at the bar. So we were sitting there, and the bar kind of made like a corner. So it was cool because we were kind of at an angle to each other, perfect for talking. So we didn't have to, wrench our necks or whatever to the side. And we were just talking about stuff in our life. And then we got to a certain topic that we were like, I don't know, I wonder how much would that cost, like an improvement to the house or something. So we pull our phones out and we're interacting with each other while we're researching something to continue the conversation. And at that moment, a friend of ours came into the restaurant and walked over, kind of put his hand on each of our shoulders and was like, you guys having good dates with your cell phone? And it's so funny because that interaction did take a dip for a second while we were, all of a sudden, just in love with the blue light that was in our hand. Mm-hmm. And it did. And it's that disconnection. And so what I would recommend, right then we were talking, we're married, we're talking about, how much does it cost to do this or this to the house? And we're like, I have no idea. Let's look. That's one thing, but I would just say like dinner table on a regular kind of on a regular basis for adults. Let's have eye contact. Let's like talk with each other. And your greatest point of energetic exchange is through your eyes. It said eyes are the windows to the soul. That saying isn't just like out there for no reason. So I'd say, like for the adults, especially, put them away during these and make intentional times to be together. What about you? I mean, do you find like Jade, if you and I were going out for drinks and then all of a sudden my nose is on my cell phone, what are you going to feel?
Well, let's not talk about me. So that's your first thing you would do. And then, So what's the second thing as an adult? We're girlfriends.
Curfew. And we have that. I'm going to go ahead and say that this is something for all of the age groups that you said. Electronics curfew, and your electronics are not in your room. They don't sleep next to you. Find another alarm clock. There's a bajillion out there on the market. So for everybody, electronics curfew, at least 60 to 90 minutes before bed. And that's all electronics. I always tell everybody, don't fall asleep with the TV on. And we do have like sleep tracks on our YouTube channel. So some people do come onto YouTube and do the meditations and sleep sounds and sleep hypnosis kind of that we have here. And that's great, but I always encourage somebody to have a secondary device that's not connected to everything else, so you don't have the bings and bongs and dings or vibrations or even the energy that's going back and forth, getting those signals, even if it's on silent or sleep mode or whatever, because you're still energetically, you're still intercepting those things. So definitely a curfew. And then the third thing I would say, watch your screen time overall, because when you talk to someone in a younger generation, so we have 5 kids, 3 of them are in their 20s, and then there's one who's a preteen, and then one who's still in single digits. But all of them with double-digit ages will text you or me or whatever and say, oh yeah, well, I talked to Jade. And we'll have to say, did you talk with Jade? Well, I mean, I texted her. And so don't replace this exchange of energy, whether it's virtual, on whatever, virtual phone call, FaceTime, or even just a regular talking phone call. Don't allow texting to take the place of that in your mind, because you're not getting full intention and energy and all of that. And so I would give that to both teenagers and adults as well.
Okay, good. Yeah. So then for me, what would you suggest for me? Because I have, I've got my ghost son, I call him. My two younger sons, they grew up, and because there was, I get divorced or whatever. And so in that household, electronics have always been the thing. And in my household, there's like, when you get to my house, everything is gone, like gone, because we're going to interact, we're going to do things. That to me, again, was a beautiful thing about, I think we talked about this about COVID, is people who were doing puzzles and people were baking and they were actually enjoying one another's company without the phone because everybody was together. So, and that's not to downplay the fact that we do have this. So when you are separated from a loved one, if they're deployed or whatever, you can still get on there, which is fantastic. That's a blessing.
Yeah.
But I have children that they will get on the phone. They will not get on the phone at all. And if I text them, maybe I'll get something.
Yeah.
So how would you resolve that?
So kids that will only text because their comfort level isn't talking. Is that the question?
Yeah, boys don't like to talk. They'd rather just text it out. And it's one word text. Yes, here, fine, okay.
Which is an appropriate use of texting. Like single word answers, because texting isn't for conversation. I've heard somebody say, well, I had a conversation over text. That's impossible. We should treat text like we treat Twitter status or whatever, like we treat a tweet, if limited amount of characters, very, very short and to the point, and not, these long conversations. I would say that you just have to get creative, or you have to come up with some sort of an agreement. Like, hey, I'm your mom. I need this interaction. You're my kid. I love you. And so we're going to have calls at 6:00 on Sunday or something. And so even though you'd like to be able just to pick up the phone and call and have them be like, hey mom, I love you. If that's not where they are, find something that's meet in the middle. I think it's the unpredictability that like throws the guy off, especially teenage boys in early 20s. And there's a lot of lack of self-esteem there. And also just, not wanting to have things that are outside of their comfort zone. And so, an unexpected phone call or an unexpected doorbell or an unexpected whatever is outside your comfort zone because it's unexpected. And so, come up with a schedule or something, some sort of an agreement. We have two boys and they're also more texters than they are callers, but every once in a while when they need something, and they'll say, hey, I need da-da-da-da-da through text, I'll respond, no problem, give me a call so we can talk about it.
Yeah, and as a mom here on this side too, since that's the only way they will communicate and that's their level of where they're at, I'll throw, cute gifts or memes over, or I'll send over maybe a picture here and there, but I know that in that age group of the 19-ish to early 20s, they're like what Dr. Jane said. They really kind of have their own little thing going. It's not that they're not thinking about you or, things like that. Obviously we're not on their mind a lot. But at the end of the day, I say at least birthday, Merry Christmas, Happy Mother's Day, Happy New Year's. And when I say happy birthday to you, respond,
Yeah.
And I also leave a voicemail, on there for their birthday to make sure that they know it's there. And that's important. I always have the backup thing. because
I would say voice texting, maybe, because I've started to just send, you know, a lot of voice texts, and that might meet their comfort level.
Well, it works, except for, you know, on Androids, I cannot, because we're not compatible type of thing yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, that's our little thing, you guys. You have a little 1, 2, 3 with 3 different ways to do it.
Yep.
And
for the little kids.
Yeah, little children. Okay, this is Devi Jade's opinione. Okay, it is just mine. I honestly feel very strongly about it. It's a little soapbox. I really don't feel that they should have electronics because they get addicted really quickly, and then they don't want to respond. They don't want to interact any other way. I love what you said, and that is put the phones away, put all the electronics away a couple of hours ahead of time, sit down and read.
Do a puzzle, play Uno.
Yeah, something. But, you know, and I used to be one that did like to go to sleep with certain meditations, and I never did that for years. And then all of a sudden, you know, as they got more with YouTube and this and that, there were certain ones I'd listen to. I do it in my morning meditation, and I just don't do it at night because I don't want to go to sleep with that electronic this close to me.
Yeah.
So I put them away. Yeah. And I'm not a person that don't see this watch. This is what we used to wear. This is what I'll always wear. Okay, because I don't want something glued to my arm in the middle of the night that's telling me how to live my life and how many steps and how many breaths and, you know, if I burped or whatever what I did in my sleep. I'm like, no. And so, yeah, that's my personal opinion. Connection.
I think the biggest thing for little kids is, you know, I love, you know, because I didn't even know how to use an iPhone. My daughter, who's now almost a teenager, taught me how to use my first iPhone. How she knew, I don't know, but is kids always emulate the parents. Right. You know, so I remember when my daughter was really little, I had this play kitchen at the corner of my kitchen. So when I was cooking dinner, she was cooking dinner, her play dinner. And so they're always going to mimic the parents. And when she'd have friends over, she had a couple of like play phones or whatever. And we had the phones, they had the cords on them. They have the phones, you know, the play phones that look like cell phones. But I remember hearing a friend of hers, like chewing somebody out over the phone. They were playing Office. And this one kid was chewing somebody out over the phone. And I like went upstairs because I wanted to make sure that they weren't coming at each other. And they were like, no, this was just one of my employees that's not doing right. They're emulating their parents. So for little kids, I mean, their rules are whatever you say they're going to be, but they're also going to follow you. So keep the curfew because you want them to have the curfew. And especially you said something about Jade, about, you know, like the other household, when you're divorced, you know, the other household, anything goes. Your household, we are in that same situation, kind of Disneyland parent versus rules parents. And there's actually freedom in having those limits, and they don't have to be on Facebook, on Twitter, you know, on Insta, responding to texts 24 hours a day when they can blame you. So for the parents who are like, well, I can't do that because the divorced, you know, the other side of the household or the other side of the parenting equation is going to let them do whatever. It doesn't mean that's how you have to live. And then you can be the bad guy there and give them a break. And they can always throw you under the bus with their friends. And then later on, they might not appreciate it in that moment or be able to tell you how much they appreciate it in that moment. But later on, and we have 3 in their 20s who have come back and done this. Later on, they're like, you know, I hated it at the moment, but it was really cool because I didn't get wrapped up in all that drama.
Yeah. So here's the positive side of this, though, is right now I am working with quite a few children, and they're used to it. They're used to FaceTime. I had to learn how to do that. I never wanted, but, you know, with all this, I had to learn how to put my face on camera. And no matter what it looked like. The thing is, because they're so used to it, again, I've come to where they're at. If I just did this on the phone and talked to them as a person that I'm working with, a younger person, like 10, 11, it's not going to go in. But if I'm seeing them on FaceTime, they're way more engaged. they are more surrendering. I'm creating a rapport. So all, again, it's like energy again of that separation versus togetherness. So there's that middle way that you can do things, can teach. We've all found that now that, gee, this is a lot easier. You can work and be at home too, you know. And I used to have a belief. I broke it, and that was, I didn't ever want to get on any kind of FaceTime, or when we were doing not Zoom. What was the other one? Because I never did it. Anyway, so what did everybody used to do? They used to call on that app where everybody could see.
Skype?
Yeah, I never did it. I would never do it. So because I felt like people were too distracted, and at that point they were. But we've learned to look at each other on Zoom and pay attention more. So now I can utilize this platform, and there's a lot more rapport, and there's a lot more listening. So it's just an evolution of where people go. I'm not going to do the watch. I'm not going to evolutionize because I like my watches, and I can still tell time. I mean, there's a lot of children that can't even do that at this point.
There are a lot of kids who cannot tell time on an analog clock, or they don't know what the word analog means.
Right?
Yeah.
No, we don't know what. So anyway, we just wanted to share that with you today, and do interact. Give us like your 3 that you're going to do and apply, and let us know, because we'll follow up with you.
Yeah.
And see where you're at, and that will spark a wonderful event in class for us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Open up the comment section and tell us which 2 or 3 you're going to take from the video and how you're going to implement it, and any questions that you have, put them down there. And just always remember that talking is a much higher vibe activity than texting, because it has more dimensions of energy in it. And so I will always vote for talk over text any day.
Me too.
All right. Well, if you like this video at all, give us a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and that little bell so you'll know the next time we drop a Woo Woo Wednesday video or anything else to help you live a life with more success and lower stress.